With SPSS, you must first of all you must understand, you must be familiar with the components in the data view before you can actually utilize this particular software for data analysis. So basically, what we can do now, I would like to just go through one of a few components that I think are relevant that you must first of all understand before we can begin looking at how you basically use this particular software to analyze the data. Okay, so if you go into your data view, you have what we call observations. Basically, every column that you see in the variable view is basically what we refer to as an observation or a case. Okay, so like I had mentioned earlier, the name observation is a component in SPSS where you are supposed to type just one name to represent the name of the particular variable that you are uh, basically supposed to program into the system. For example, the gender variable. For the gender variable, you can simply just pick an appropriate name or just one word without leaving any space, which is of course gender, in order to represent what the variable is about. So under this particular name section, for others, you can basically use or denote the names using symbols, or if you want, you can just simply say Q1 to simply suggest that this is the first question in the questionnaire. Okay, so now next thing that we probably have to look at is the next case or the next observation, which is the type observation. And this particular observation is basically meant for SPSS users to simply define or specify the kind or the type of variable that will be entered. Remember that SPSS is mostly utilized for quantitative analysis only. So basically, the default type is always the numeric type. If you notice, every time you enter a variable, you will get the default type, which is the numeric type. So for example, if we are to type gender in the name variable, you can simply type your tab button to simply move into the next cell, which is the type, and then under the type, the system automatically just indicates as numeric, because mostly the data that we enter afterwards is numeric kind. So after we look at this, we go on to the next one, which is the width. The width is just simply the amount of space that will be provided to you as you will be entering your data in the spaces that will be provided in the data view. The next is the decimals, and this is just basically the decimal numbers that will be given to each case or each entry that is done when you are entering your data. So when you're programming the variables in here, basically what you do is just to reduce the decimals down to 0. Basically the default is 2, so you reduce it down to 0, and then you come to the label, which is the case or the observation where you are supposed to specify the kind of variable that you are simply programming into the system. So here you can simply just say the gender of the respondents, and then you press tab, and then right next to the label you have the values, and this is the part of SPSS where you simply assign codes to the value labels under each value. So remember that when you're doing your data entry using SPSS, mostly you enter codes and not the actual data. So under the gender, you know that the value labels under the gender are male and female. So basically here what you do is you're supposed to assign codes which will indicate what each particular code represents. So our 0 can be male, and then you simply press add, and then our 1 can be female, and then you simply press add. So for some people, these particular codes can be assigned in such a manner that the male will be assigned 1 and the female assigned 2. So depending on the nature of the data, you can simply begin with whichever particular code. So I'll explain why it's important sometimes to start with 0, and then I will also explain later on why it's important to start with 1. So once you do that, you come to the missing part. Here you basically indicate which discrete missing values you expect or which discrete missing values you have. So if you want, you can just simply ignore this part, as it will not have so much effect on your outcome. And then later on, we come to the column, which is of course the default, which is of course the amount of space that you will be accorded in the column section. If you want, you can simply ignore this section, as it is already given as the default number 8. So the column is very similar to the width, so you can just simply just bypass that, and then you go on to the next one, which is the alignment. Remember that the alignment just aligns the data on their right path, or the right side. So if you're going to be entering numeric data, the SPSS is automatically going to enter the data on the right side, and then if you're going to enter string data or non-numeric data, SPSS is automatically going to align that data to the left side. So after you look at the left side, you go on to the scale, and then under the scale, remember that this is a part where you must understand very clearly. So for this part of the tutorial, I'm not really going to go deep into what this simply means, as I will be explaining that in the next tutorial. So thank you so much for watching. I will be looking forward to seeing you watch the next tutorial. You can invite your friends. You can invite the other people that will be interested to look at our tutorials. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good night. Bye.